Beneath your feet lies a world far older than any city. Some underground tunnels are thousands of years older than the first known urban centers, a reality that shatters our timeline of human progress. By the end of this journey, you will understand how ancient societies achieved engineering marvels long before history officially began. Why would prehistoric people invest immense effort to carve complex labyrinths deep into the earth? And what profound secrets did they bury there? Their silent stone passageways hold answers that challenge everything we thought we knew about our past. What does it say about humanity that our oldest surviving structures are not temples or palaces, but tunnels leading into the dark? This three-level labyrinth carved from solid limestone descends nearly 40 feet into the earth. Known as the Hypogeum of Hal Saflini, this sprawling complex is more than 5,000 years old, a time when most of humanity lived in small, scattered villages. Yet here, on a Mediterranean island, a society undertook a project of staggering ambition. They painstakingly hollowed out the rock to create a vast underground world complete with burial chambers, ceremonial halls, and even a main sanctuary. This was not a haphazard cave but a meticulously planned architectural feat. The builders shaped spirals and patterns into the ceilings, carved false doors into the walls, and created spaces that resonate with a profound and mysterious power. Sound behaves strangely here. A deep voice spoken in one of the so-called oracle chambers can be heard clearly throughout the entire complex, a low vibration that seems to hum through the very stone. What purpose did this serve? Was it to amplify chants during sacred rituals, to create an otherworldly experience for those gathered in the darkness? The acoustic properties are so precise that they could not be an accident. This suggests the Neolithic builders possessed a sophisticated understanding of their material and its properties, an engineering wisdom passed down through generations. The sheer amount of labor involved is almost unimaginable. They worked with nothing more than stone, bone, and antler tools, slowly pecking and grinding their way through the dense limestone. This was a communal effort spanning centuries, a continuous project that demanded a highly organized society with a shared, powerful belief system. Their focus on an underground realm hints at a spirituality deeply connected to the earth, to ancestors, and to concepts of rebirth. The Hypogeum stands as a silent monument to their devotion, a puzzle box of stone that challenges our perception of prehistoric people. They were not primitive survivors, but master architects of a hidden world. While the Hypogeum was a place of ritual and burial, another ancient tunnel system served a far more urgent purpose: survival. Deep within the volcanic landscape of Cappadocia in Turkey lies the astonishing underground city of Derinkuyu. This was not a single tunnel or a ceremonial chamber, but an entire city carved downward into the soft, pliable rock, a labyrinth reaching 18 stories deep into the earth. At its peak, this subterranean metropolis could shelter an incredible 20,000 people, a population larger than many above-ground cities of its era. Its origins stretch back to at least the 7th or 8th century before the Common Era, a time long before the rise of classical powers like Rome. The builders excavated living quarters, stables for livestock, churches for worship, storage rooms, and even sophisticated wineries for producing wine, all connected by a dizzying maze of passageways. The entire complex was designed for one primary function: defense. Each level could be sealed off from the others using massive, circular stone doors, each weighing several hundred pounds and rolling shut to block invading forces. These stone barriers were the city's ultimate safeguard, protecting those inside from whatever turmoil raged on the surface, whether it was an attacking army or a natural disaster. The sheer scale of Derinkuyu reveals a society with incredible foresight and a powerful instinct for communal preservation. They did not just dig a simple hiding place, they engineered an entire hidden world, complete with ventilation shafts that brought fresh air to the deepest levels and water wells that tapped into underground aquifers. This was a self-sustaining fortress intended to support its inhabitants for months at a time. The existence of such a complex so early in history fundamentally challenges our ideas. It proves that large-scale underground habitation was not a medieval innovation, but an ancient and highly advanced solution to the perennial threats of the world above. The engineering of Derinkuyu was about collective survival, but other tunnels embody a more personal and desperate form of resistance. The Khu Khai tunnels of Vietnam form a sprawling network that stretches for over 120 kilometers beneath the earth. While they gained global notoriety as a strategic military base during the Vietnam War, their story is far deeper than that single conflict. Local legends and subtle archaeological clues suggest the foundations of this labyrinth are ancient, with some passages possibly carved and used in prehistoric times, then expanded and refined over countless generations. This was not a system built in a decade, but one that evolved over millennia. Imagine a hidden geography, a secret map of the land known only to those who inherited it. The tunnels were a masterpiece of concealed warfare, with entrances so perfectly disguised they could be hidden beneath a cooking fire or concealed within a termite mound. Inside, you would find not just cramped passageways, but entire subterranean realities, hospitals, kitchens, command centers, and sleeping quarters, all connected by a maze designed to confuse any invader. The air was supplied through ingeniously hidden ventilation shafts that doubled as camouflaged firing ports. The entire system was protected by brutal booby traps, pits of sharpened bamboo stakes known as punji sticks, and trapdoors that could send an unsuspecting soldier into a deadly fall. This was ancient knowledge applied to a modern battlefield, the foundational understanding of how to live and fight underground, how to move unseen and breathe safely, seems to be a wisdom passed down through the ages. The Khu Khai tunnels stand as a powerful testament to this enduring human ingenuity. They show us that the strategic value of the underground world is not a modern discovery, but a timeless truth. From prehistoric refuge to 20th century stronghold, the earth itself has always offered a final sanctuary. Beneath the sun-drenched piazzas and Renaissance architecture of Orvieto lies a second, invisible city. This Italian hilltop town is not built upon solid rock, but rather atop a colossal sponge of human endeavor, a labyrinth of tunnels and chambers carved over 2,500 years ago by the Etruscans. Long before the medieval towers rose, this ancient civilization was hollowing out the soft volcanic stone, creating a hidden world that served every function of their society. They were not merely digging shelters, they were engineering a subterranean mirror of their life above. Vast quarries provided the building blocks for their cities, while intricate cisterns, carved with breathtaking precision, captured and stored every precious drop of rainwater. The Etruscan mastery of hydrology was profound. They understood the flow of water through the porous rock, designing systems that were so effective they were still in use centuries later. Their knowledge of rock mechanics was equally advanced, creating arches and pillars within the caves to ensure their stability for millennia. Some chambers served a more spiritual purpose, like the columbaria, with hundreds of small niches carved into the walls. While often called dovecotes, the true purpose of these niches remains shrouded in mystery, possibly serving as resting places for cremated ashes or as part of a ritualistic connection to the underworld. This was a multifaceted underground landscape, a single network supporting industry, survival, and belief. The Etruscans did not see the underground as a separate, fearful place, but as an integral and usable part of their world. Their engineering genius laid the literal foundation for the city that would follow, a powerful reminder that the most enduring legacies of a civilization are often the ones you cannot see, hidden in the silent, enduring dark. While the tunnels of Qumran were born from conflict, others were designed as sanctuaries for an entire community's way of life. Far to the north, beneath the quiet fields of France, lies the underground city of Naours, a labyrinth of such immense scale it could house the entire population of a medieval town. Its story begins in the 3rd century, as the mighty Roman Empire began to crumble, and the safety of cities could no longer be taken for granted. In this new era of uncertainty, local people started digging, not for treasure or ritual, but for refuge. They began quarrying the soft limestone, block by block, to build their homes above ground, and in doing so, they inadvertently created a safe haven below. Over generations, this initial quarry expanded into a true subterranean city, a complex extending for nearly 2 kilometers and containing 300 separate rooms. This was not a temporary hiding place but a fully equipped underground world, complete with chapels for prayer, stables for livestock, bakeries with functional ovens, and even a town square where a community of 3,000 people could wait out the dangers of the world above. What is truly remarkable about Naours is its longevity. It was not used for a single war or a single century. This same network that provided safety from Viking raiders in the 9th century would be used again 1,000 years later by soldiers during the First World War. The very same walls that sheltered medieval families from marauding armies would later bear the graffiti of Australian and British troops, men who carved their names and regiments into the soft stone while seeking respite from the artillery barrages of the Somme. This continuous use across millennia reveals a profound truth. These tunnels were not forgotten relics, but a living, breathing part of the community's memory, a perpetual sanctuary passed down through countless generations. They represent a promise of safety, a literal foundation of resilience that allowed culture and community to endure through every wave of surface-level chaos. The story of Naours is one of quiet, unyielding continuity, a pattern we see repeated across the globe. Deep beneath the green Polish countryside lies a kingdom of salt. The Wieliczka mine is not merely a hole in the ground, it is a subterranean cathedral, an artistic marvel carved over 7 centuries of continuous labor. Its story begins in the 13th century, when miners first descended to extract the precious rock salt, a substance as valuable as gold in an age before refrigeration. Yet the salt itself is ancient beyond comprehension, formed from a vast evaporated sea millions of years before the first humans walked the earth. This mine is a place where deep geological time intersects with the relentless toil of generations. And those miners did more than just extract a resource. They transformed their workplace into a breathtaking sanctuary of their own making. With their own hands, using simple picks and chisels, they sculpted the very salt they were mining into something transcendent. They carved life-sized statues of saints and kings, intricate reliefs depicting biblical scenes, and even magnificent chandeliers whose crystals are made of pure, glittering salt. The centerpiece of this underground world is the stunning chapel of St. Kinga, a vast chamber where every single element, from the altarpieces to the floor tiles, is hewn from salt. This was not a project commissioned by a pope or a monarch, but a grassroots expression of faith and artistry born from the men who spent their lives in the dark. Why would miners returning from a grueling shift choose to spend their free time carving a chapel? It speaks to a fundamental human need to create beauty and find meaning, even in the most utilitarian and demanding environments. The mine is a labyrinth of over 200 miles of galleries, punctuated by serene underground lakes that reflect the carved ceilings. It is a testament to a unique relationship between humanity and a geological resource, a partnership that spanned epochs and blended backbreaking industry with the most profound cultural expression. Wieliczka stands as a powerful echo of a theme we have seen again and again, that our deepest underground spaces are never just for survival or industry. They become canvases for our spirit, proving that even in the deepest dark, we are compelled to create light. Long before the first stones of Wieliczka were ever carved, humanity was already seeking refuge and meaning deep within the earth. In the limestone cliffs of Burrington, Combe in England, a series of caves holds the echoes of lives lived more than 10,000 years before farming or cities ever existed. This was the Paleolithic era, a time when small bands of hunter-gatherers roamed a landscape locked in the grip of the last ice age. These natural tunnels and chambers were not built by human hands, but they were profoundly shaped by them. They served as vital shelters against the harsh climate, offering protection from the biting wind and predators for generations of early humans. Yet these spaces were far more than just prehistoric motels. Within the darkness of these caves, our ancestors left behind clues to a rich inner world. Archaeologists have uncovered not only stone tools and the bones of ancient meals, but also something far more telling: cave art. Faded paintings and engravings on the walls speak of a spiritual connection to this underground realm. The act of creating art in the deep, inaccessible parts of a cave suggests these places were sacred, perhaps used for rituals or as a canvas to document the animals and spirits that governed their lives. This site provides a rare and intimate window into the minds of people who lived at the very dawn of our story. They were masters of their environment, utilizing the Earth's own architecture for both physical survival and the expression of their beliefs. The incredible longevity of human activity at Burrington, Combe, spanning thousands of years, underscores a fundamental truth. Our connection to subterranean spaces is not a product of civilization, but a core part of our ancient heritage. This deep, innate relationship would only evolve as societies grew more complex, leading us to seek out and create even more astonishing networks. High in the thin air of the Peruvian Andes, a temple complex holds a secret that is felt more than seen. Chavín de Huántar, built around 900 years before the Common Era, is a monument of stone and shadow, a place where the earth itself was engineered to manipulate the human mind. Long before the Inca forged their empire, the Chavín people carved a labyrinth of narrow, stone-lined galleries deep beneath their ceremonial center. This was not a refuge from invaders or a shelter from the elements. It was a carefully designed stage for psychological theater. The journey into this underworld was a core part of the ritual experience. Visitors, perhaps pilgrims who had traveled for weeks, would be led into a maze of windowless passages, their world shrinking to the flickering light of a torch. The air would be cool and still, the only sounds the echo of their own footsteps and the distant, unnerving rush of water flowing through hidden channels. Then the manipulation would begin. The priests of Chavín possessed a terrifying advantage. A network of precise ventilation shafts and sound conduits acted as a primitive intercom system, allowing a single voice to project throughout the complex as if it were emanating from the very walls. A whisper could become a roar, a chant could seem to come from everywhere and nowhere at once. Imagine standing in that cramped, dark gallery and hearing a deep, disembodied voice call out, a sound with no visible source. It would be impossible not to believe you were in the presence of a god or a powerful spirit. This was not mere trickery, it was a masterful application of psychoacoustics, an understanding of how sound affects the human psyche. The architecture was a tool for inducing altered states of consciousness, using disorientation and sensory overload to break down a visitor's sense of reality and make them receptive to the religious doctrines being presented. The entire complex was an engine of awe, designed to transform a person's beliefs through a carefully orchestrated physical and auditory journey. This sophisticated use of underground space reveals a society with a profound grasp of both engineering and human psychology. They were not just moving stone, they were shaping perception itself, building authority not with weapons, but with wonder and fear deep in the heart of the mountain. The psychological manipulation of Chavín relied on contained, man-made darkness, but some labyrinths achieved their disorienting power through sheer, overwhelming scale. The Odessa catacombs form a hidden city beneath a city, a chaotic maze of tunnels stretching for more than 2,500 kilometers beneath the streets of the Ukrainian port. While the earliest man-made sections were limestone quarries dug in the 19th century to build the elegant buildings above, they are merely the newest layer in a far more ancient story. These mines were carved into a pre-existing world of natural karst caves, caverns and waterways that have been slowly sculpted by water and time for millions of years. Humanity simply expanded a labyrinth that the earth had already begun. This sprawling underworld quickly became a world unto itself, a lawless frontier beneath the bustling metropolis. Smugglers found its shadowy passages perfect for moving contraband, their lanterns flickering in a darkness that had not seen light since the planet was young. During the Second World War, Soviet partisans used the catacombs as a hidden base, a place from which they could launch surprise attacks and then vanish back into the stone. The air in these tunnels is cold and damp, the silence so profound that it feels heavy. Navigating them is notoriously perilous. Over the decades, countless explorers have become lost in the unmarked passages, their fates adding to the grim folklore of the place. Whispers persist of secret chambers used by occult groups, their purposes forever hidden. Odessa demonstrates that even in our modern, illuminated world, the ancient pull of the underground remains potent. It is a space that defies human control, a reminder that the deepest dark is not always empty, but filled with the echoes of all who have sought its shelter, from geological deep time to the desperate conflicts of yesterday. A city's grandeur is often built upon a forgotten foundation. In Edinburgh, the elegant arches of the South Bridge, completed in 1788, conceal a secret world directly beneath the feet of its prosperous citizens. Known as the Edinburgh Vaults, this is not a single tunnel but a series of damp, lightless chambers and passageways that were never intended to be forgotten. Initially, they were bustling spaces filled with the sounds of commerce, housing taverns, workshops, and storage for the businesses operating at street level. But the construction was rushed and flawed, the stonework porous and constantly leaking water. Within just a few decades, the wealthy merchants abandoned these dripping rooms, leaving them to the only people who had no other choice. The city's poorest and most desperate residents moved into the perpetual gloom, alongside illicit activities that thrived in the shadows. This underworld became a hidden society, a stark contrast to the Enlightenment city growing above it. The air grew thick with the smells of poverty and illegal whiskey stills, the silence broken only by whispers and the scuttling of unseen things. But the story of these vaults is even older than the bridge itself. The entire ridge upon which Edinburgh is built is a honeycomb of previous excavations, with evidence of medieval tunnels and cellars, suggesting a pattern of subterranean habitation stretching back to the city's earliest days. The 18th century builders were simply the latest to reuse a space that had always called to those on the margins. This creates a powerful dichotomy, a tale of two cities existing in the same physical space. The gleaming, intellectual prosperity above was fundamentally supported by a gritty, struggling reality below. The vaults were not an anomaly, but rather the enduring underbelly of urban development itself, a space where the forgotten and the illicit found a home in the very foundations of progress. Exploring their history forces us to acknowledge that for every great city that rises, a shadow city is carved out beneath it, a necessary, hidden dimension to civilization itself. The elegant decay of Edinburgh's vaults gives way to a different kind of hidden history, one written not in stone but in whispers. In the Canadian prairie town of Moose Jaw, a network of passages lies buried beneath the modern streets, its true origins lost to time. Some say these tunnels were first carved by indigenous peoples as shelters from the brutal winter winds. Others believe they were expanded by Chinese immigrants who arrived to work on the railways, creating a hidden community where they could live beyond the reach of discriminatory laws. Then came the era of prohibition, when the same tunnels became a perfect conduit for bootleggers moving illegal alcohol across the border into the United States. A single doorway behind a false wall in a laundry basement could open into a labyrinth of contraband. This was a space of shadows and second chances, offering refuge to those pushed to the edges of a growing society. The air in these passages is thick with the echoes of countless untold stories, of laborers, outlaws, and families simply seeking a place to exist. The tunnels of Moose Jaw were never a single thing for a single people. They were a living, evolving sanctuary, repurposed by each new generation that needed invisibility. Their ambiguous history is not a gap in the record, but the entire point. They preserve the complex, layered narrative of a continent's growth, a story not of grand monuments but of clandestine economies and quiet survival. These underground spaces were the unwritten ledger of the town, recording the lives of those whose contributions were overlooked by the official history books above. They remind us that the foundation of many settlements is not just the soil they are built upon, but the hidden worlds carved beneath them, spaces that offered opportunity and safety when the world above would not. Just a short distance from the vast city of Derinkuyu, the Rock of Cappadocia conceals another marvel. The Göreme underground network is part of a sprawling system of subterranean refuges, and its story may reach back even further into the mists of time. Some archaeologists point to Hittite artifacts found in the region, suggesting the first tunnels were carved over 3,000 years ago during the Bronze Age. These are not isolated hideouts but entire cities stacked vertically, descending up to 8 levels deep into the soft volcanic tuff. The landscape above is a forest of surreal fairy chimneys, towering cones of rock that nature sculpted and humanity hollowed out. Inside, the cities were masterpieces of communal engineering. Grand spiral staircases connected the levels, while massive, wheel-shaped stone doors, identical to those in Derinkuyu, could roll shut to seal off each floor from invaders. A labyrinth of ventilation shafts, some stretching over 100 meters to the surface, ensured a constant supply of fresh air to the deepest chambers, while hidden wells tapped into the water table far below. This was a world designed for long-term survival. Centuries after the Hittites, these pre-carved labyrinths became a sanctuary for early Christians fleeing Roman persecution. They expanded the tunnels, carving simple crosses into the walls and creating hidden churches within the stone. They found a ready-made fortress, a place where their community and their faith could endure unseen by the world above. But why did the original builders, whoever they were, go to such incredible lengths? The foundational structures hint at a purpose that predates any known persecution in the region. This suggests that the instinct to burrow deep into the earth is a recurring theme in human history, a default response to an unpredictable and often dangerous world. The true power of Göreme is not in any single era of its use, but in its continuous adaptation. From Bronze Age settlers to Byzantine monks, generation after generation recognized the same profound truth, that safety and continuity could be found not in building higher, but in digging deeper. These cities are a physical record of resilience, a layered history of human ingenuity written in stone, one level at a time. Beneath the elegant boulevards and grand monuments of Paris lies a city of the dead. The famous catacombs are a silent, sprawling ossuary holding the carefully arranged bones of more than 6 million souls, a number that dwarfs the population of the living city above. But this macabre gallery is merely the newest occupant of a subterranean labyrinth that is far, far older. The very tunnels that now house these skeletal remains were originally carved out over 2,000 years ago, beginning with the Romans who first quarried the limestone to build their city of Lutetia. For centuries, this relentless extraction continued, the stone rising to form the foundations of Paris itself, from Notre Dame to the Louvre, all while leaving a vast and growing void beneath the streets. By the 18th century, the city above was thriving, but the city below was collapsing. The ancient, neglected quarries were causing sinkholes and building collapses, a literal undermining of the modern metropolis. At the same time, the overcrowded cemeteries of Paris had become a public health crisis, their soil so saturated with decay that it was poisoning the air and the water. The solution was as pragmatic as it was chilling. The bones of the dead were exhumed in a nightly, solemn procession and transferred deep into the reinforced quarry tunnels, creating a permanent, organized repository for the city's deceased. What had been a place of industry became a place of eternal rest. This transformation forces a profound confrontation. We walk through a city built from ancient stone, while directly below, the remains of generations form the bedrock of our collective memory. The catacombs are a stark, physical poem about the cycle of urban life, a reminder that our greatest achievements are forever intertwined with the resources we extract and the ancestors we honor. Every great city is not just built on rock, but on history itself, a layered foundation of both stone and bone. The sheer scale of the Mammoth cave system is almost beyond human comprehension. Stretching for more than 650 kilometers beneath the hills of Kentucky, this is not a single tunnel but an entire subterranean continent, a labyrinth of staggering complexity that was already ancient when the pyramids were built. And we now know that humans have been drawn into its shadowy depths for over 4,000 years. Long before European settlers arrived, prehistoric Native Americans were the first to navigate this overwhelming darkness. They did not come merely to seek shelter. They came as miners, venturing deep into the earth with torches of cane and river reed to extract valuable minerals like gypsum and selenite, a soft sulfate they prized for its white, glittering crystals. The evidence of their work is preserved in the cave's timeless environment. Archaeologists have found their footprints, perfectly fossilized in the soft clay floors, a trail of silent steps leading ever deeper. They have discovered the charred remains of their light sources, the very torches that pushed back the absolute black, and even the well-preserved body of a man who perished in the tunnels, his story forever sealed in the silent stone. Why did they undertake such a perilous endeavor? The minerals they sought were not for basic survival tools, but likely for ceremonial body paint and trade goods. This suggests that the cave was more than a quarry. It was a sacred space, a place of immense spiritual significance. Imagine the courage it took to crawl through narrow, uncharted passages with only a flickering torch for light, surrounded by a silence so profound it must have felt like entering another world. The vast chambers and echoing canyons would have inspired both awe and terror, a physical manifestation of the underworld in their belief system. Their journey was not just one of physical exploration, but of spiritual quest. The Mammoth cave system stands as a monumental testament to this ancient, dual relationship with the underground. It was a source of tangible wealth and a gateway to the intangible, a place where the practical and the profound were inextricably linked. This deep, enduring human drive to understand and utilize the Earth's depths connects those prehistoric miners to every civilization we have encountered, a universal thread woven through the dark fabric of our shared history. Some of history's most profound secrets are not found in grand libraries, but in the silent, sun-baked caves overlooking the Dead Sea. The Qumran caves are a stark network of natural tunnels and chambers carved by wind and water into sheer limestone cliffs. For thousands of years, these barren hollows have offered a stark refuge for those seeking absolute separation from the world, most famously the Essenes, a devout Jewish sect who settled here around the 2nd century before the Common Era. This community chose a life of extreme asceticism, and the caves were central to their existence. They provided more than just shelter from the desert heat. They offered the seclusion necessary for intense spiritual study and the copying of sacred texts. The dry, stable desert air, with its remarkably consistent temperature and low humidity, created a perfect time capsule. It was this specific microclimate that allowed the Dead Sea Scrolls to survive for 2 millennia, completely untouched by the decay that would have claimed them anywhere else. These ancient manuscripts, hidden in clay jars and tucked into the darkest recesses of the caves, include the oldest known copies of the Hebrew Bible, along with other religious writings and community rules. Their discovery in the 1940s was a moment that rewrote our understanding of biblical history. The scrolls did not just preserve ink and parchment, they preserved a snapshot of a living, breathing faith from a time of immense social and political upheaval. The Essenes used the isolation of the underground to protect their way of life and their most cherished beliefs from the turmoil of the world outside. In doing so, they accidentally performed an act of preservation for all of humanity. The Qumran caves stand as a powerful testament to a universal truth that when knowledge is threatened on the surface, the earth below often becomes its greatest guardian. These spaces safeguard not just objects, but the very ideas that define civilizations, holding them in trust for a future that desperately needs to remember. While the public catacombs of Paris hold millions in a collective sepulture, other underground chambers were designed for a single, noble lineage. In the Italian countryside near Perugia, a stone staircase descends into the eternal home of the Volumnii family, a tomb complex known as the Hypogeum of the Volumnii. Carved in the 3rd century before the Common Era, this was not a simple grave but a subterranean mansion for the dead, meticulously constructed to mirror the world of the living. Stepping inside is like walking into a wealthy Etruscan house frozen in time. The volcanic rock is sculpted to resemble a traditional roof, complete with carved wooden beams, while the walls are adorned with detailed facades of doors and windows that lead nowhere. Within this eternal dwelling, the family's ashes were placed inside ornate limestone urns, each one a miniature masterpiece of sculpture depicting the deceased reclining as if at a banquet, a serene smile on their stone faces. This was not an act of morbid fear, but one of profound belief. The Etruscans saw the afterlife as a direct continuation of earthly existence, and they invested immense resources to ensure their loved ones would dwell in comfort and dignity for eternity. They chose the deep, stable earth as the perfect vessel for this permanence, a sanctuary that would remain untouched by the wars, weather, and decay that inevitably ravaged the cities above. The Hypogeum is a powerful statement about legacy. It declares that a family's memory could be made immortal, not through monuments in the fleeting sunlight, but through a durable, hidden world carved into the very bedrock of the peninsula. This profound cultural investment in the underworld as a domain of memory connects the Etruscans to civilizations across the globe. From the ceremonial halls of Malta's Hypogeum to the family tombs beneath Perugia, we see a shared human instinct to use the Earth's depths not just for survival, but for safeguarding our most cherished connections, ensuring that even in death, our stories are never truly lost. High on the Ethiopian plateau, a city of stone descends into the earth. The 11 churches of Lalibela are not built upward from the ground, but excavated downward from it, carved directly into the living rock of the mountainside in the 12th and 13th centuries. Each structure is a true monolith, a single block of stone isolated from its surroundings by a deep trench, then painstakingly hollowed out to form a place of worship. The scale of this undertaking is almost beyond belief. It represents a mountain turned inside out, a landscape inverted through faith and sheer human will. The architects did not merely construct buildings, they sculpted a negative space, removing everything that was not a church to reveal the sacred forms hidden within the rock. But the churches themselves are only half the story. They are connected by a labyrinth of ceremonial tunnels and deep, narrow trenches that slice through the red volcanic tuff. These subterranean passageways create a symbolic network, a hidden geography designed to represent a new Jerusalem for pilgrims who could not reach the Holy Land. Worshippers did not simply walk from one church to the next, they embarked on a spiritual journey through this underground world. One tunnel, known as the Path to Heaven, is said to promise salvation to those who pass through its absolute darkness. Another represents the River Jordan, a channel of both physical and spiritual transition. The genius of Lalibela lies in this unification of massive architecture and intimate passage. The tunnels are the connective tissue of a vast, open-air religious diagram, guiding the faithful through a landscape saturated with meaning. While the churches are a testament to medieval Christian devotion, the system of passages hints at something even older. Some tunnels feel crude and primordial, their origins obscured by time, leading to speculation that they may incorporate or follow pre-Christian pathways, sanctified and repurposed for a new faith. This layering of belief is profound. It suggests that the very act of moving through the earth, of descending into a carved darkness, has always been a fundamental human ritual. The builders of Lalibela understood that the most powerful journeys are not just those we make across land, but those we make into it, following a sacred map written in stone, leading ever closer to the divine. The same hilltop in Tuscany that supports the flamboyant domes and striped arches of Sammezzano Castle holds a secret history written in stone deep beneath its foundations. This 19th-century Moorish revival palace is a riot of color and intricate design, a fantasy built by a single eccentric marquis, but its true depth is not in its opulent halls, but in the cool, dark tunnels that lie below. These subterranean passages are far older than the castle itself, with medieval and possibly even Roman origins. When the Marquis constructed his dream palace, he did not erase this ancient underworld, he simply built over it, integrating the old tunnels directly into his new design. They became the castle's hidden circulatory system, used for storage for servants to move unseen, and as a potential escape route in times of trouble. This created a fascinating duality. Above ground, the castle was a public declaration of exoticism and wealth, a place for grand entertainment. Below ground, the tunnels provided a layer of practical privacy and security, a silent, functional counterpoint to the decorative exuberance overhead. The very stones tell a layered story. You can find the rough-hewn blocks of a medieval foundation supporting the precise brickwork of a 19th century arch, all within the same underground corridor. This is not a place with one history, but many, each generation repurposing the subterranean spaces left by its predecessors. Sammezzano's tunnels are a perfect example of a historical palimpsest, where older narratives are not destroyed but merely written over, waiting in the dark to be read by those who know how to look. It reminds us that the most enduring human habit is not building anew, but building upon, using the foundations, both literal and metaphorical, that the past provides. Beneath the lively streets of Plzeň, a medieval city thrived on a hidden foundation. The Plzeň Historical Underground is a multi-level world of cellars, corridors, and wells, a labyrinth that first took shape in the 14th century. But these Gothic passageways were not the beginning. They were constructed over an even older network of tunnels, the foundational veins of the city's earliest days, creating a subterranean blueprint that was expanded and refined over generations. This was not a secret lair or a ceremonial space, but the city's vital utility system, a masterpiece of practical medieval engineering. The cool, stable temperatures deep within the earth made these cellars the perfect natural refrigerators, preserving food and, most famously, maturing the city's renowned Pilsner beer. Ingenious wells tapped directly into the underground water table, ensuring a reliable supply for both brewing and survival. And in times of siege or conflict, these same passages became a clandestine highway, allowing citizens to move unseen and access hidden stores, turning the entire city into a defensible fortress. This integrated approach reveals a sophisticated urban intelligence. The people of medieval Plzeň did not see the world below as separate from the world above, but as an essential, functional component of their daily lives and economic security. Every barrel of beer aged, every sack of grain stored, and every well dug reinforced the city's resilience. This was utilitarian genius, a seamless fusion of architecture and infrastructure that had ancient roots, echoing the Etruscan mastery of hydrology and the communal foresight seen in Derinkuyu. The underground was not an afterthought. It was the bedrock of the city's very existence, a hidden engine of prosperity and protection working silently in the perpetual dark. Rising from the sea just off the Greek coast, the island fortress of Burrington seems like a solitary sentinel. Built by the Venetians in the 15th century, this stone stronghold was a masterpiece of medieval military engineering, but its true genius lies in the secrets it shares with the water itself. The Venetians did not merely build on the small island, they built into it, exploiting a network of natural sea caves and carving their own tunnels to create a hidden maritime web. These passages allowed galleys to slip in and out unseen, enabling surprise attacks on besieging forces and ensuring that supply lines remained open even when the surface of the harbor was controlled by an enemy. This was defense in 3 dimensions, using the underwater landscape as a tactical advantage. Yet the strategic brilliance of this location did not begin with the Venetians. The island's history of use stretches back to antiquity, suggesting that these later engineers were perhaps adapting a much older local wisdom. The concept of using the meeting point of land and sea for concealed movement is a timeless principle. It reveals a profound understanding that the best fortification is not always a higher wall, but a deeper secret, a way to move and strike from the blind spot of the land. Burrington represents the enduring fusion of natural topography and human ingenuity in the relentless pursuit of security. This fortress stands as a powerful reminder that the principles guiding tunnel construction, whether for refuge, ritual, or warfare, are universal and eternal, echoing from the deepest prehistoric caves to the lapping waves of the Aegean Sea. Darkness holds memory in the cool, damp air of Ireland's Dunmore Cave. This natural limestone labyrinth is more than a geological formation. It is a chronicle written in stone and shadow, its earliest pages marked by Neolithic hands. Long before history was recorded on parchment, people were leaving tools and artifacts deep within its chambers, drawn to its depths for reasons we can only guess. But one event etched this cave into the historical record with terrible clarity. In the 10th century, a Viking raiding party descended, trapping a group of local people inside. The massacre that followed was so brutal it was documented in the Irish annals, a stark record of violence that seems to echo from the walls themselves. The cave's most striking chamber is still known as the Market Cross, a vast space where a single, massive limestone column reaches from floor to ceiling. It was here, tradition says, that the worst of the slaughter took place. How does a place hold such trauma? The very formations seem to absorb the stories, transforming a natural wonder into a sacred tomb. And the layers of meaning only deepen. Centuries before the Vikings, the cave was already woven into the fabric of Celtic mythology, believed to be an entrance to the otherworld, a realm of gods and spirits. After the arrival of Christianity, the narrative shifted again, with the cave becoming a setting for tales of saints and demons, a physical stage for a new spiritual struggle. This is the true power of a place like Dunmore. It is not a single story, but a palimpsest of human experience. The same stalactites that inspired ancient myths later dripped water onto the shoulders of medieval monks who saw in their forms the architecture of heaven and hell. The cave does not change, but the stories we tell about it transform with each generation, reflecting our deepest fears, our faith, and our need to make sense of both beauty and brutality. Dunmore Cave stands as a profound example of how we project our humanity onto the silent, enduring earth, filling the darkness with our own light and our own ghosts. This final tunnel is not a passage through darkness, but a descent into light. Rani Kai Vav in India is a stepwell built in the 11th century, a staggering architectural masterpiece that inverts the very concept of a temple. Instead of reaching for the heavens, it plunges 7 stories deep into the earth, a grand staircase flanked by over 800 intricate sculptures that leads not to a summit, but to a sacred water source at its base. Each step downward takes you further into a world of carved deities, celestial nymphs, and mythological scenes, a gallery of stone that becomes more elaborate the deeper you go. This was far more than a simple well. It was a sophisticated subterranean city dedicated to water, featuring a complex network of tunnels and shafts that managed the flow and level of this precious resource with astonishing precision. The engineering knowledge required to construct such a stable and effective hydraulic system in loose, sandy soil was immense, a testament to an ancient and refined understanding of geology and water management passed down through generations. But the true genius of Rani Kai Vav is how it seamlessly wove this practical necessity into a profound spiritual journey. The physical act of descending mirrored a metaphysical descent into the underworld, a symbolic return to the source of life itself. Water was not just a resource here, it was a divine manifestation. Every carved figure, every pillared pavilion, and every step was an act of reverence, transforming the utilitarian act of drawing water into a sacred pilgrimage. This breathtaking structure stands as a perfect culmination to our journey, embodying the very essence of why humanity has always been drawn underground. It represents the ultimate fusion of survival and spirit, of engineering and art. Rani Kai Vav encapsulates that timeless, profound connection between humanity, water, and the earth, a relationship that has, since time immemorial, compelled us to carve our most enduring stories into the silent, waiting stone. These 22 labyrinths reveal a stunning pattern woven through time and stone. Across continents and millennia, pre-urban societies returned to the underground for four essential purposes: refuge, ritual, resource management, and the preservation of knowledge. This is not a random list, but a blueprint for survival and meaning. The need for a safe haven from invaders or a harsh climate drove the creation of Derinkuyu and Naours, while the profound human drive to connect with the divine carved the sacred acoustics of Malta's Hypogeum and the spiritual descent of Rock-Hewn. Practical genius for managing water and quarrying stone built the foundations of Plzeň and the Etruscan cisterns, and the desperate need to safeguard beliefs and community placed the Dead Sea Scrolls and the Qumran network deep into the Earth's protective custody. This recurring pattern shatters the simplistic idea that these were primitive people. You do not coordinate the excavation of an 18-story city or engineer precise hydraulic systems without sophisticated social organization and a deep, generational pool of technical knowledge. These projects required planners, engineers, and a shared vision that could outlive any single individual. They demonstrate a conscious, deliberate manipulation of the environment on a staggering scale. The true power of these networks lies in their longevity. They were not fleeting experiments but enduring institutions. For thousands of years, they provided a stable foundation for culture, a constant sanctuary where communities could wait out the chaos unfolding on the surface, whether that chaos was a Viking raid, a religious persecution, or the slow collapse of an empire. This continuous thread of subterranean development forces us to confront a radical idea. The capabilities we often associate with advanced civilization, complex engineering, urban planning, and large-scale social cooperation did not emerge with the first cities. They were present and highly refined long before the rise of Ur or Babylon. Our timeline of human progress is not a straight, ascending line. It is a spiral where ancient ingenuity echoes through the ages, inviting us to listen more closely to the stories whispered from the dark. Our journey through these 22 hidden worlds reveals a profound truth about our past. The underground was not a place of fear for our ancestors, but a domain of profound possibility, offering sanctuary for the body, nourishment for the spirit, and a canvas for our most ambitious engineering. These labyrinths stand as silent, enduring witnesses to a forgotten timeline of human ingenuity, proving that long before we raised our first cities to the sky, we had already mastered the art of shaping the world beneath our feet. They were architects of the dark, turning the very earth into shelters that could outlast empires, into temples that could amplify a whisper into a divine command, and into libraries that could preserve sacred knowledge for millennia. This hidden chapter of history forces us to expand our definition of civilization itself. It is not built solely upon the grand monuments that catch the sunlight, but equally upon the forgotten foundations carved into the bedrock, the quiet, resilient spaces that allowed culture and community to endure through every storm. The legacy of these tunnels is a testament to a universal human trait, the relentless drive to survive, to create meaning, and to secure a future, no matter how deep one must dig to find it. So the next time you walk through a modern city, pause for a moment. Consider the layered history that lies just beneath the pavement. What other secrets are waiting in the dark, holding stories that could completely reshape our understanding of who we are and where we come from? If this descent into humanity's deepest roots has captivated you, subscribe for more journeys into the world's greatest historical mysteries. And we would love to hear from you. Which of these ancient tunnels resonated most with your own curiosity? Share your thoughts in the comments below.